Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you for another episode of the podcast. Check out and don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us. That helps the bands like Roast John. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR Outfitters.com. Don't just wear RAR. So, Nick and Otto, welcome, gentlemen.
What's
How are we
up?
doing today?
Doing great, man. How about yourself?
Nick, how are we doing, brother?
Doing well, doing well.
It's been a busy summer. It's been a busy winter. You guys just keep rolling. We're now Roast John. We're back as Roast John. Ocean City, Maryland, ladies and gentlemen. What is it like living in Ocean City, Maryland in December?
It's a bit colder, although today has actually been kind of nice. It warmed up to the upper 50s this week. But, it's that mid-Atlantic climate, and it's kind of unexpected every day. You never know what you're going to get here. But it's warm today, but I'm sure it's going to be getting colder again,
Yeah, and very misty out too. I noticed looking out the window, a lot of fog rolling in. It's hit or miss. You can just roll the dice. You don't know what you're going to get each day, and and it's clears out a little bit this time of the year, which is the locals are out to come out to venues and all that, which is cool. But it's it's a little bit more chill at the same time. So like driving down the strip is a lot easier this time of the year.
A lot of the restaurants and bars have locals deals, because while the tourists are the bread and butter of the economy here, the wintertime heavily relies on the locals, especially musicians. People got to come out and see you, so they'll keep hiring you back, and that's kind of like the goal. So yeah, gaining a local following is super important for sure.
Yeah, a little less honking on Coastal Highway this time of year, huh?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's go back to the beginning. You gentlemen, Otto, a guitarist, Nick, a keyboardist. What got us into music in the first place? I know Otto for your dad, but like Nick, how about you? Like any siblings or mom or dad into music, or were you like the lone wolf?
So it's kind of it's an interesting little story, but my parents are not musicians. However, my mom still is the entertainment editor for the local newspaper. It's now called Ocean City Today Dispatch, but she's been with them, I believe, over 20 years. So growing up, she always took me out to these places she was covering, because she took photos and kind of covered these, events for the bands and stuff. She did a great job throughout the years supporting local talent. And from that, when I was young, she used to take me out to, benefits where I was, allowed to be in, not bars and stuff. But like if there was a benefit at Secrets or something, I was able to go into Morley Hall and see bands like Pompous Pie with Joe Smooth, Chris Button, all those kind of local legends, Darren and Bob from Opposite Directions, who I'm fortunate enough to play with in present day. They're great guys. And so like, a lot of the local legends around here kind of was the first live music kind of situations that I was able to see. And I definitely owe that to my mom for taking me out and, showing me all that stuff. My grandfather is a musician. He's still alive. He's 94, but he was an old country guy. He back then in like the 50s and stuff, a lot of times the band was like the venue would hire the band and then they would kind of stay there for the different acts that would come through. So he was with Mel Price and the Santa Fe Rangers, and they were pretty well known around the Eastern Shore area, up in the north. and South. But he somehow, through his time, he became a backup or a backing band for some venues down in Georgia and South Carolina, where people like Patsy Cline would come through, or Conway Twitty, some of those like classic country guys, and they would just be there as the band. So yeah, that was kind of cool to hear, and you can still hear some of his tapes and stuff on YouTube, but they're the quality, it's a lot of distortion and stuff, but it's still cool to hear. Through elementary school and middle school and stuff, I played the trumpet in band, played guitar for a bit, rhythm player. But what really led me to play the keys was I was inspired after I saw Fish in 2013. That was kind of like the turning point for me. I don't know what exactly it was. Maybe not so much technical ability, but it was kind of like the camaraderie that I was seeing on stage, the musical connection. And it wasn't really anything I had seen before, live or nationally. It was just something that really spoke to me. So I think that's kind of what inspired me to really focus in and hone in on the keyboard or piano, organ.
How much were you a fan of Fish before you saw them for the first time?
Not very much. A good friend of mine, Chris Markowitz, who's also a wonderful musician and just a great all around guy.
Great musician.
He is. He's really something. But he in high school, we used to hang out at my house, and he would bring over DVDs of the Clifford Ball and stuff. And he's like, "Man, I'm telling you got to watch these guys." And I'm like, "I don't know." I didn't really I was big into Pink Floyd at the time, so I was like, yeah, these guys are pretty good, but he's not David Gilmour, and blah blah blah. And he's like, just come to a show with me. I promise, just come to a show. And we went to it was in Holmdel, New Jersey. It was the PNC Arts Center, and that was I think that was really what was the tipping point, for me, with not only with the band, but with the future direction of my life, really, with how I write, understand, and play music with a group.
Yeah. How about you, Otto?
Well, obviously, about my dad. So, I mean, starting there, really, like, when I was a kid, we had a cottage in Falls, Pennsylvania. It was about 10 minutes away from Tunkhannock. I don't know if you're familiar with that area up there, in the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre area. And we had a cottage up there, and that's where we spent our summers. And my dad was playing music with this group called the Cadillac Band, and the band leader of that group was Gene Guerrilla, and he was a member of the Boston Celtics. He played on the team for 4 years and won a championship. He played with Bill Russell and all that. He's not with us today, but just fun little fact. But my dad was playing with that group, and he also had a duo on the side called the Duke and the Dolphin, and that was him and his good friend Tony Alu, and they would have rehearsals at the cottage. And like, I was a kid, and like, I had a little toy guitar, and I'd just be coming up, standing right next to them while they were rehearsing. And, it's just growing up with music, my whole life. And then, before I got into the guitar, I played saxophone first. That was like the first instrument that I really dove into. And I was probably in 5th grade. When I started playing sax, and I played it all the way through my senior year of high school. I dabble with it, now and again. I'd like to get back into it again, because I mean, I was pretty good, at it. But I really took to guitar in 7th grade. We had just taken a trip to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. And that's where my dad's from originally too. So we went out, just to, visit. And, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like seeing the whole Jimi Hendrix experience really like just did something. It's like, wow, like I really like, like to fine tune, like, because I was just kind of getting interested in the electric guitar at that time, like actually feeling the power of plugging into an amplifier, as opposed to, the acoustic. Just the electric just did something. And then, I just started practicing, and the first song I ever learned was Crossroads, the Cream tune. And I know my dad, he showed me like just the bum, bum, ba, da, 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 da. And, I'm learning. I'm like, how long do you think it'll take, before I like get this down? He's like, practice hard, maybe give it a week. I got it down that night. And it was just, it was like, wow, I want to just keep progressing with this. And, it's just been, it's been a journey, and, it's still learning. That the road is it's not closed for learning something new, because that's what music is really, all about. I mean, that's I'm nowhere near being a finished product, my craft.
So do you guys prefer to write music acoustically or on the electric guitar?
Um, that's a good question. I think it really just depends, on what I pick up. I mean, I guess I kind of lean more towards electric, but I mean, it's just, it's a toss up really, for what, a song might work with, that style of instrument. But I don't know. That's why I play a telly. They're just a very versatile sounding instrument, that's for
So
most part, it's still electric.
So then when you guys kind of started individually, when you started, got into college, into high school, at what point in your career or at your age did you feel like, oh, maybe I could do this full time?
Well, I know for me, I mean, I was playing in bands, but it was never really the thought of doing it full time, because I was still, I was working in a restaurant. And I know, like, really do something like that, you need to be playing consistently solo or as a duo. And I didn't feel ready really, to be playing a solo. And my dad was always pushing me. Like, he's like, you could be out here, like, actually making money instead of working in the kitchen. And I just got thrown into it. I want to say, like, what was it? 2016, I think, is when I started playing solo. And, I just, I'm like, wow, I can do this. And I just haven't really looked back since. And, and it's one thing that's great about doing it too. It's just you consistently like to challenge yourself. Like when you're playing consistently, it's like, I just don't want to be doing the same things. It's like, what's something different that I could throw in? Like maybe a little lick that I haven't been doing. And I mean, it all doesn't work out all the time, but it's just, also reading the room. Like if it's like a super chill gig, I might experiment a little bit more. But yeah, it's just there's a lot of improvement too when you play, by yourself or just on a consistent level.
Yeah. Nick, speak about that. That's reading the room, especially if you're a cover band or if you're playing covers and you have obviously a catalog of music to play. Like how is reading the room like affect your music playing, and how do you do that?
So yeah, I mean that's a great question, and I'm sure a lot of musicians, or most, if not all, bands and musicians will agree. It is very important to read the room, especially when you're first starting, right? You kind of give a little test run with the first few songs, and see how. So you got to see the reaction, right? If you've got people that are just, if it seems like more of a night of people rather just kind of chill at the bar, they're not, wanting anything too loud and crazy. Yeah. We'll dial back the set, because the cool thing about Roast John is that we typically just pick 3 or 4 songs at the beginning of the show, and then we kind of go from there, depending on the room. If we're driving people out, if it's too loud, and we get it. It's a kind of a niche product that we try to put out there. We'll tone it back. We'll do some more covers, some well-known stuff, and then that kind of gets people engaged. They're like, "Oh, okay, I do know this one. I do know this one." And then you can kind of start going out there, and if you've got, after your set break, if you've got people that are still there and interested, then that's the time to usually, drop some of the, longer, jam vehicles, or try to start doing some more improv and things like that, trying to go out there on a limb a little bit more. And then if you're coming up to us after the show and you really liked it, then hey, we've got one new fan, and that's what it's about. But yeah, reading the room is very important. I will say there is definitely a mental roadblock sometimes, especially if the gig is super slow right when you first begin and you're only playing to one or two people, and we've played to no people before.
Yeah.
And
I think that's like the most challenging, like, when there's an empty, because you feel just, awkward, and it's like, oh no, like, what do we get ourselves into?
Yeah.
But I mean, there's no turning back, and, it's just try and make the best of it. And sometimes, those situations end up, like people end up showing up and, you're not expecting it, or, it could go the other way. I mean, it's a hit or miss every now and then.
Do you feel? Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I was saying, yeah, it is definitely a hit or miss.
And the other thing is too, like, as a group, like, I like to be able to show like versatility, like, say we'll play like, we might play like Big River or something, and then we like go in and we do we do the Golden Finger and James Bond medley. Yeah. And, like, just kind of, for example, and then maybe go into like one of our songs, or maybe then we go into like Hendrix, hit him with some blues, after, just like kind of not like staying on the same level of things, because like me as a listener, I like to hear, versatility in a band. Like, it's all about going on that ride, like, it's like, all right, like, it's like, this is pretty cool, as opposed to, just sticking like with the same thing. Like, I love, bluegrass and reggae are awesome, but like, if it's just the same thing over and over again, I eventually, lose interest. And it's not to discredit the musicians or anything. It's just, me, I like to, I like change ups, every now and then.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with that. And I think Otto said it very well. And there's nothing wrong with this being a reggae band. A lot of people dig it, and I think that's the thing that our group has tried to show people, is that you can be multi genre. When people ask, "What kind of music do you play?" It's always the hardest question, because what do you like? We'll play it. Or at least try to play it. We'll learn it. We've played jazz standards. We've done, like you said,
Cannonball Adderley.
Yeah, we've done Cannonball Adderley. We've done bluegrass tunes. Prog rock. We've done Beastie Boys. I mean, you can't really just put a theme on it. It's just try to have fun.
Not to interrupt, but I think that's like the best way to categorize, jam band in a way, because it is like jam band is just, it's like a little bit of everything, at the end of the day. And I mean, but I don't think people get that. Like, when, they ultimately hear jam band, they think like, it's like, oh boy, these guys are just going to be letting loose and, like just kicking jams. They don't really understand like the meaning of, it's just, we're playing these songs, but we like to improvise. So, I mean, ultimately, like, that is throwing like a little jazz, in a sense, jam band, it's like throwing that touch of jazz with improv, but, it's just kind of finding a way to make these songs like work, for, the band as a unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And really, I think jam music and jazz music, one of the key similarities is the transitions between songs, and like between like key changes or, rhythms or whatever, like, I think that's what makes them both so great. So getting back to the live show, especially if you're playing like a bar or like a restaurant, what is your stance on just playing an entire like 2-hour set or 3-hour set, or doing like the set break? Because I know I've heard bands say, when you do the set break, then you lose like 30% of the audience, but if you play through, then, at least you have their interest. What's your guys' take on that?
I think it's good to have like a set break. I usually like to do a long first set, personally. I mean, even me as a solo artist, like I do, um, I play for about an hour and a half on a regular basis. And, normally I think for like, if you take a different approach, I feel like most people, like, your entire break time for a show, I feel, should be about a half hour. So like if you do 45 minutes, 15-minute break, go back up, 15-minute break, and then finish it out. I like to play a little longer. I do take a little longer of a break. I mean, but sometimes, you need to eat in that time period. And sometimes, like 15 minutes really doesn't give you a lot. And it's just like, it gives you enough time to get, refueled again and like, bring more energy to the second set, you know, I just feel like it gives you time to make preparations and just kind of gain some stamina, back to for a set break, and then just kind of get, just regain a little energy, and also you get to, just say thanks to people that are coming out to, support you as well and interact with your audience, in that way, and just show your appreciation. I mean, I don't know. What do you think on
Yeah,
that?
I think I agree. I think it is nice. It is nice to like kind of regroup and have a break, especially if you're playing like a lot of high energy stuff. The first set, people, including the musicians, they need a breather, reset, kind of like your zone. Your ears. Be able to take a breath. And not only that, but the musicians, they need to use the bathroom too. And like Otto said, it is a good time to like go out and maybe talk to some folks that have been supporting you. I mean, in my experience, last year we pretty much did most, I would say 90% of our shows with no break. And yeah, sometimes toward the end you would see a decent amount of people still there, but really, I mean, and look, this is anecdotal, but what I've noticed, I don't see much of a difference between the amount of people still left at a non-ticketed event, right? I'm talking about mainly like people that are, like you were saying, bar and restaurant. It seems to be about the same as if you were going to take a break regardless. People leave during the second set because it's a restaurant and bar, and it's late and it's Ocean City. And now if you're at a ticketed event, people aren't going to leave because they paid to see the act for the most part. Right. So, I mean, in this day and age, I do feel like it is kind of expected for a set break. Jazz musicians take a set break. I mean, it's, if I were to purchase a ticket to go see a jazz show in Baltimore or DC, I'm not going to leave during intermission at the jazz club. I don't know. I think that, it depends, but yeah, I think a break is definitely okay, to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, not taking too long of breaks is very important. You don't want to be off for 45 minutes. I mean, 10, 15 minutes, sometimes 20, and you're back on. But you got to make it up while you're playing, right? Give them that extra 10 minutes at the end, or whatever.
And it's like, depending too, like if you have a lot of people, I mean, I may even go play a couple songs extra, even, like if it's a, full house. Yeah. But, like I said, I mean, sometimes like, for me, I'd like to grab a quick bite, and sometimes 15 minutes, isn't really like enough time, because sometimes the kitchen could have something happen, and, if the food comes out, and then it's like, you're like really just scarfing it down, super fast. I mean, it's just nice.
Haters on your beard.
I know. It's like, all right, I got to eat this burger in one bite,
He'll get weak if he doesn't eat. So
he's angry.
Yep.
So it's funny you said about bluegrass, because bluegrass I feel like has gotten a little bit of a renaissance lately, with Billy Strings obviously leading the.
I agree, absolutely. Billy Strings is like definitely given a new like meaning to bluegrass, and I think Billy Strings like is the epitome for like making the show like interesting, because he shows his versatility with everything. So I mean that I mean, he's definitely. I mean, he's going to go down as one of the greats. I mean, he's already amongst that
He's already
company.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, though, with that genre of music, to your point, the thing that I can do about 30 minutes of bluegrass, and I couldn't figure out for years why, like, that was the case. It's not just the music, it's not just the lyrics, it's not the bands, but you know what it was, or what I think it is there's no drums. Like, and it really it shows to me how much I like put emphasis on like a really good drummer. If you don't have a good drummer, you probably don't have a good band. Is that fair to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
that's very important to have a good drummer. I mean, it's the heartbeat of the band.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I
It's
think that's
definitely.
what's missing in bluegrass. You don't have that. Obviously there's ways to get around that, but like you don't have that full sound of like a drum kit behind that genre of music. And
Mhm.
I think that's what,
Yeah.
I can't do more than 30 minutes of it. Like to your point, it's not that it's bad. It's not that it's, like I love it, but I can only do increments of it. So.
Yeah.
Um, you'd mentioned the Beastie Boys. We were talking about this with some coworkers the other day. The Beastie Boys are one of those bands, and I want to get your guys' take on this as musicians. But like, when I listen to the Beastie Boys now, like Brass Monkey, Sabotage, like those songs, it almost feels like they were by themselves in that decade. Like nothing else sounded like them. Almost kind of like when you listen to like 50s music now, it's like, oh my God, like I don't think we'll ever hear that again. Like do you
Yeah.
get that at all? Or do you know you kind of feel what I'm talking about?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think with particularly modern pop, right? I mean, that's, you know, I don't know how to really articulate it, but I definitely feel currently is right now that our best days of music have come and gone. Um, for popular music, right? Now in the 60s and 70s, like the pop music was the Rolling Stones and, Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, Dark Side was the top of the charts for, I think, 14 years, things like that. Nowadays, you would never see anything quite like that.
Hmm.
Not to, I mean, look, modern music has its place. A lot of people, they like it for a reason, and they're entitled to that. But as a musician, I don't know if I respect it as much as I did, from the 60s to the 90s to the even the early 2000s. Now that doesn't mean to say that there aren't bands out there doing it like the old guys, like the
Hmm.
old school way, keeping that music alive. And that's kind of how I feel as a musician playing out, even if it's locally, is just trying to keep the idea of live good music, um, keeping it going, through the
Yeah.
generations. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we can't really like cover all like the modern stuff like that everybody wants to hear, like the country stuff, and a lot of that is just, it doesn't give me the oomph. It doesn't give me the ability to be able to create something in my mind and then give it out to the people. And that's kind of like the human connection that I feel when I'm playing music for people, but I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I think Nick really summed it up. I feel the same way. Like I just feel like a lot of this stuff you don't even hear like, instruments really. It's like synth and, like just, about the drum beat. And like, you don't hear like an improv guitar solo most of the time. I mean, the I don't know. Yeah, it just doesn't really like hit something, And I grew up listening to like older stuff too. Like my dad, would be playing the blues, on his CD player while he was out working in the yard, or like, just I mean, and even like having physical copies of CDs and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah,
like that actually meant something, I feel, too, like going to, get a I remember getting the Buddy Guy Sweet Tea album at the library, and like, I mean, I loved it. You know, like you just, I don't know. I think that was like the early 2000s, you know, too. But it's just, I don't know. I mean, I know the music's still out there, but it's just not. It's not out there on that level that it really
Deserves to be.
Yeah.
Well, I think a perfect example, the new Coldplay album. Like, if you listen to that album, it's just sounds and synths and drums. There's like no guitar. And like Johnny
Yeah.
Buckland is one of the greatest guitarists out there, and you're like not using him. Like it's like, what are we doing? So
Mhm.
I'm with you. I'm to that point. Like it is. It almost feels a little empty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're like you're getting something out of it, but you're like, man, like I'm wanting more, you know? Like
Yeah.
I think that's
And,
where we're at right now.
and it's like even like country music, I just feel like they all sound the same. It's poppy and it's just like it's just commercialized. Like they almost
And this is
put out
modern
like
country. Modern
yeah,
country.
I mean, yeah, modern. See, now me, like yesterday, I mean, I put on Honky Tonk Heroes on my way home, listening to some Waylon. Like, that's like that's the country I like. That.
And it's funny, you'll see a lot of these modern country fans, and you'll talk to them, and they won't know some of these classic country greats. They'll know Johnny Cash, and that's it. And it's just like,
Yeah, I had that happen to me actually at a gig, man. Like I was like, she's like, "Can you play some country?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got some Johnny Cash. I could play some Waylon Jennings." And she was like, "I don't know who Waylon Jennings is." Like,
I mean,
God.
And good for the guys that are making a whole bunch of money with their country pop stuff, and
Yeah,
not discrediting them, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you'll listen to sometimes if it's on in like the supermarket or whatever, and you'll hear like a quick country solo and be like, that studio musician can play.
Oh yeah, no, those I'll tell you what, those guitar players can definitely play. They do have the guitar players, that is one thing.
Yeah.
The country music, scene, they do get the guitar players, but I think just the feeling of the heart and soul, like in some of the old country songs, it's just,
it's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about obviously, we live in Ocean City, Maryland, a resort town. Basically April to November, it's balls to the wall, and then November to April, it's kind of like, a nice little setback. For us who live in towns where it's, every day is kind of the normal, how do you kind of adjust to that? And, how do you kind of adjust? Yeah, like how is that an adjustment?
It just slows down a little bit, but I mean, me personally, I'm still staying very busy playing. There's plenty of venues to play, and I mean, there's music happening year round. I mean, it's a little slower out in town, but it's kind of nice too. Like when you're traveling, like this time of the year, it's just like the town is ours again. But once summertime rolls in, I mean, obviously, like. It's good for, I mean, that's how we make money and I mean, during, the summertime and, for all the restaurants, I mean, but I mean, I still think, like this time of the year, like a lot of the venues I play, like, for example, my Monday gig, that I just started they got some really, good specials going on. It's like $2 tacos, $9 burgers, and $6 margaritas, and to me, it's like, man, that's a pretty good deal. Tacos are slamming.
That's it hooked up.
No, that's hooked, but hooked up is where that's all part of the same chain. This one's in Ocean City, but it's just like people like to have good off season specials. That's how you get the locals to come out, because like I feel like most locals they kind of. Either they're not going out as much like as they normally would in the off season just because there's too many people, and it's like kind of just wait for things to get back where it's like a little less chaotic in town. But obviously there's still going to be people in the summertime here and but it's just more locals on that side of things, I'd say. I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great sum up. I mean, it's how we appreciate the tourist kind of economy, for sure. Driving is definitely more difficult, and you get frustrated just like anywhere else. But
Mhm.
it is kind of cool how we do have that dichotomy between the two seasons. Um, but like Otto was saying, that's why it's important to, whether you're a restaurant or a band in this type of town, it's important to like gain the support of the locals and you know and just kind of give them something that maybe is a little bit more special than it would be if in the summer, when you have more time to be able to dedicate to catering to the locals who are here all the time. It's kind of a nice thing.
So kind of getting back to like set lists and stuff, like I know obviously 90% of the bands in Ocean City and Rehoboth and that whole area, it's cover bands because obviously that's what people want overall.
Mhm.
How difficult is it to kind of carve your own lane of original music, amongst, that chaos of cover bands?
It's tough. It's tough in this area. I
Mhm.
mean, it's super tough. And that's why Roast John was trying to start playing more and more out of this area, because, like you said, I mean, people are coming here, they're on vacation. They're not really they're looking for that cover band fun. You know, very what's the word?
Stuff
Safe kind of
stuff they're
music.
familiar with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
things that they can relate with and what they're familiar with, and that's fine, and that's what they want. But at the same time, what we have to offer is a lot of that same thing. But you just have to, I don't know, use your mind a little bit more while you're having dinner. And there are people that really do appreciate it. They'll come up and they'll be like, "This is really unlike anything I've heard."
Mhm.
Like your rendition of, I don't know, uh, um, Big River or something.
Yeah.
It's like we've never really heard it like that. But that's just it's good. It's good to have that and see that, and that's kind of what we strive for, I think.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there are success stories, Lowercase Blues,
Mhm.
G13 back in the day. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, you're right. Most of, local original bands, like you pretty much your level is about what you can get, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so I mentioned Lowercase Blues. You guys have a
Mhm.
good relationship with those guys. When did you
Oh
start
yeah.
connecting with them? And what do they mean to this area?
Oh, I mean, they're huge. I mean, they've been playing since I was in high school, and I've been following them, like since. I mean, that's like if I'm going out to see music, that's probably like my first go-to, who I'm going to, go out and
Yeah.
watch. And I'm hoping, we can jam again at some point. Like I love those guys like Jake, BJ, Tristan. I mean, it's just and Spike, plays with them too. If Tristan's not, I mean, it's just like BJ is such an incredible bass player. I mean, I've never really heard anyone, that plays like him. Actually, I can make one exception. Charles Calloway, which I think BJ actually got lessons. I think I'm not too sure. I think I've heard that. Don't quote me on that. But I know Charles Calloway was a sick bass player. But like him and BJ, and then obviously like Jake.
Jake the
He
Beast.
just sounds like Jeff Beck. I mean, with his style of playing, and it's just like, ooh, man, it's just nice,
He's got such a nice touch on the guitar.
smooth.
Very, and he does have those hints of like Beck and things, but then he's got his own, like, you can tell when you at a venue or whatever, or a restaurant and lowercase is there, you're like, that's definitely Jake playing. You can
Yeah.
just, you have that, and I feel that way with Otto too. Like if I when I hear him, and it's so nice to see like having that little flair of like personality in your playing. And I think, like, and I'm biased with Otto, but I think Jake and Otto are two of the best players that this area has. But there's there's a lot of great players like Sean Loomis with the Dune Hounds.
Mm-hmm.
Super nice guy. The Dune Hounds are a great group to see live.
Is Casey still with them?
Yeah. Casey's playing bass with them.
Mm-hmm.
So Troy's the rhythm player, and Adam Belinky's the drummer.
And then even like Joey Fulkerson, Delaware, he just got inducted into the Delaware Blues Society. And I mean, he's worked on my guitars, excellent player. Love Joey, that's.
We are blessed in a sense to have all these really just talented local musicians that we can call up and talk to whenever we want and say, hey, how are you? How are you? And the community is great too with musicians being friends. We help each other out. We try to the best we can, with gigs or, if you have a contact, yada, yada. And then especially for nights like double bills, when Roast John would have lowercase at either Burn or wherever, Fagers, it was just a night that people really wanted to go out and see it. It was always a great turnout.
Oh yeah.
And just
place to be packed.
And I feel like it's such a nice collaborative kind of sound, right? Between the two bands.
And we usually do like a big jam.
Yeah. We'll have a jam at the end. And, it's funny. BJ, really, like, BJ was always like, Roast John's my favorite band of all time, BJ, or like favorite local band. And he was the one that kind of, introduced us to a lot of the other musicians, Sweet Lita, and, that's how we got to know the Fitzke brothers and things like that through BJ. But yeah, so lowercase is sick, long story short.
Yeah. Always beat our boys.
I think, it's been 17, 18 years since I think I've known those guys. But what's cool about BJ in particular is like, you don't have too many bands where the bassist is the singer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And, his voice is so gravelly and smoky and unique.
Yeah.
Right? And then you add, like you said, like his bass playing. He is probably one of the best bass players I've ever seen play. So you add those three things together, and then you add BJ or add, Jake being this ridiculous guitarist. Like it doesn't really matter who's his drummer. Person A back there. Like it really is. Like it's a power trio, but the two of them are so. So much of the power, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. So like, I guess like seeing those guys come along through like, this area, like what did they teach you or what was the biggest thing that maybe you learned as a band that you took from them?
I would say definitely tone, as well. Like I always thought Jake had one of the smoothest guitar tones, and it was just like trying to chase, something like, obviously I want to be my own musician. I don't want to copy, but, just like something that's just like smooth, that feels good, and works and just cuts, at the same time. That was like one thing I always just thought he had that. He still has that Strat sounded like super nice. And just, how to make a band sound full for even like, three members, of a group. But those guys, they're special, man.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like when I see those guys, like their lyricism too, with their original music, they're super catchy, super just, nuanced, and they have like, there's, like BJ is a huge Fish fan, so is Tristan. So they have like these little elements of transitions. They'll go into halftime, like when you wouldn't expect it. A song, Midnight in the Afternoon.
Yeah.
It's so catchy. Like it's so great. And the musicianship, I think with like the lyricism too, it definitely shouldn't go unnoticed with those guys. And that's kind of what I've learned a lot from them is like, writing good, catchy, but also different lyrics, that that are cool and pleasing and making them work.
But there's like also simplicity,
Yes.
too. It's like that less is more, type of deal. It's like, don't overthink things. It's just, it just, you don't have to like cram a whole lot into, just let it flow. Whatever, if it feels good to you, it's good, feel good to your audience.
It's so funny you said that Midnight in the Afternoon, because that I was going to say that anyway, and like by far that is the best song off that album. But there's so many good songs on that album, but that song is so catchy. You're right. So
great.
I want to talk about like what is the energy in a room when you guys are playing in the wintertime compared to like a summer gig outside? Is there a difference, or is it just like, you just kind of attach that just to the gig itself?
I think it depends on where it's at. And, like I feel like Burn, usually we get like it doesn't matter what time of the year it is. Like, we get a really good, showing. And, that's one place I just feel, we play and we'll always have people there. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is, for most part. Actually, summertime could be tough though, even for like our local friends, because just with work and all that too.
Yeah. And traffic and things like that. Mm-hmm. We have a decent, support group for our band in like the Berlin / West Ocean City area.
Slower, lower area too.
Yeah, slower, lower Delaware. That's why we were trying to kind of branch out and go north a little bit into Delaware, like Rehoboth and things like that, to try to get our music, kind of just starting to spread just a little bit more from the local area. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, like he said, it depends on the place, right? Playing outside on the deck at Fager's in the middle of summer, it's going to be always a great turnout, because it's just that it's Fager's, and that's where you try to read the room to try to gain some attention, because like the younger crowd, right? They're going to mainly want to be out, with a DJ or something like that. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you'll play a song that they know, and then they're kind of like, oh, these guys aren't too much older than us. It's pretty cool. Like, it's not just a bunch of older dudes, But yeah, Burn is great. It's kind of like home base for us. Vinny's great. We did our album release there. We've done special 420 shows there. Mm-hmm. And we've done double bills with Lowercase there. Yeah. The place always has a great turnout, good pizza, good food. Logan had his wedding reception there, his party, so it kind of has a little personal, friendly touch with Roast John, Yeah.
So let's talk about Logan and the rest of the band, because, you guys took about a little over a year off from being in a band. We went and did the side project, or whatever you want to call that, with the Fitzky brothers. When you came back and approached them about getting the band back together, what was the initial response?
So it was funny. It was when we texted the guys about, our decision to kind of part ways with the Fitzkys. And by the way, all mutual. Those guys are great, and we wish them nothing but the best. Yeah. And we are so appreciative for our experience and time with them. They're great guys, and they're
just going to keep getting better and better.
Yeah, and at this point, at that point, we just had some just creative differences that it was nothing personal or anything like that. And so, with that being said, we let Logan and Smitty and Jamar know what was happening, and it was like within a few hours, Logan had said like, hey, I got this gig for Halloween. Like, if you guys want to try and do it, we got a Halloween party. And we were like, okay. So we did have one show, but it was for a private party, mm-hmm. Which was just before Halloween. And we dressed up, and that was where our profile picture came from on the Roast John Facebook. So that was kind of cool. It was very, it was like I said, it was private. It was quiet. A lot of people didn't know what was happening because we put like the new profile picture up, and people were like, should we be expecting dates? And so then we talked about it, and I think we all decided it'd be cool to have a reunion show Vinny was from Bern was like, let's do it here. And we chose the date after the holidays and everything, once it slows down for the Logan and Smitty and Jamar, who all have kids, and so that's what we decided on February 21st, and we're excited. We don't know exactly what the plan is going to be after that. I think it's going to be some shows sprinkled in, throughout the year. We may do some side projects.
Mhm.
We may be playing with other groups here and there, filling in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the plan right now going forward. But we're super stoked for the reunion show, and we're going to be planning something, at least some fun there.
Yeah.
Something will happen.
Right. So the Halloween show, like, how long before the Halloween show did you talk to the guys? And then what was like that feeling of playing again like for the first time?
It was about a month, I would think, maybe 3 weeks before it, and we ended up having one rehearsal like a week before.
That's
Yeah,
it?
we had one. Yeah, just one. And we were like, "Hey, you know what? It's not bad after not playing together for 10 to 12 months."
Yeah, it was still there. I was like, all right, not too shabby.
Yeah, and it ended up being a great gig. I mean, people really loved it, and they already want us to do it again for them next year. And so, they were super nice about it. And I thought we played well. And
I thought so too. I mean, it was a fun gig, and I mean, it was a cool Halloween party. I mean, like costume contest and all that, and I mean, it was fun.
So did that surprise you, or did you kind of feel like it was going to be like just riding a bike?
I kind of felt like it was gonna, things were gonna be like kind of right where they left off.
Yeah.
Smitty and Logan were ready to, do that style again. Yeah. Unfortunately, Jamar wasn't able to make it that night, but Smitty played the bass, and I think those guys were just so excited to be playing again, with the group and doing some of the older Roast John originals and things like that. Logan always says, he's like, I just love playing Roast John originals.
So what were they, did they join other bands, or did they do anything in the 12 months, or did they just kind of stick with their full-time jobs?
I mean, it was pretty much their full-time, sticking with their full-time jobs, but I know, like Smitty sat in with the Permilla Project, I think, like once, and then Logan was
he was kind of sitting in a good bit.
Did he play with the Dune Hounds?
Yeah, he did some work with the Dune Hounds, and
he was playing with Jamar and
the Rogue Citizen, or I mean, he was just filling in. He played with Jamar and I can't remember the other guys' names.
Well, he was
Nick Clark,
and then he was playing with Danny Miller and Bill Todd.
Oh,
as well.
yeah, yep.
Okay, so they stayed busy then enough, right? Yeah,
they did. Yeah, and Logan had his baby, and she's awesome, and so it's he's been doing a great job with that, his home life and family life, and Smitty's got 2 kids, and we're both just rolling along, so. We're all just taking it as we can for right now. You know, those days, the 6 years we were playing together, or 5 years, it was a lot more intense. Trying to get our name out there, and like the hunger to the drive to get our, and we eventually made it all the way up to playing Peach, and then, life just happens. For people in their 30s and stuff, and kids are had, and there's nothing wrong with that. But going forward, once everybody gets, Smitty's kids are getting a little bit older, a little bit, not that it gets easier, but it's easier to play a little bit of music, and Logan's got a great support group with his family and things like that. So I think, we don't know exactly moving forward how much and how often it's going to be, but I think we're all in the same mindset that we definitely want to play. We definitely want to do some recording again at some point.
Yeah. We got unfinished business, that we need to with some of the songs. I know we got to get Perdita, Shabbat, Leroy,
Hotshot,
Newsroom, and Old Men in the Morning. I mean, the list goes on.
Righteous Raoul.
Yep. Yeah, we have to finish that one. It's almost done. That was like our song that was we were getting ready to finish, but it didn't, end up getting finished. But we'd like to revisit it now.
Careless Minds.
Careless Minds.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you guys have, like you said, Otto, some unfinished business.
Yes.
So will you then use Sweetfoot Studios then, or will you go back to Mid-South then?
Probably. Our first album at Mid-South, that went really well. I know we just had a really great experience recording with Shay Springer at Sweetfoot. I just thought that it was very. I don't know. His whole house is just set up as a studio, and like you go in, and it's just like it's music stuff everywhere. And he also was very like I felt like a part of the recordings as well, like offering input, and we really had a great time recording there. And Easton, it wasn't too bad to make it out that way.
His wife was actually did some work for us in Salty, with the claps.
Yep.
He was like, I think we should add some claps here, and I think we should add some tamarines and stuff. And so that was a lot of that cooler stuff in the background was Shay. He acted not only as a sound guy, but as like the producer, rather than having two separate people. And I thought that was a really cool, like if we just totally butchered like a vocal part, he would be like, he's like, really, you guys can do better.
Yeah,
you got this, and like it was.
I like that, personally. Like it's like, all right, that's when you're working with with someone good, and it's
he's a good dude.
And it was also too like I felt like not only like he the collaboration for producing, like we would come in with our ideas, and he would offer his input, and it was nice. And I mean, he had some great ideas.
And it was a fair, obviously if we had unlimited resources, right, we would love to spend a lot more time on that, listening back. It's like, yeah, we could have did this better. But for what was produced, I think that his working with him was totally like a great and fair rate and decent business and things like that.
Well, I'm just laughing when we went in, because I mean, what was it, 7 songs?
Yeah.
So we came in and we're like, yeah, look, we want to record 7 songs, within 2 days, and he was just thinking like, what are you guys, nuts? And then we ended up. We did it. He's like, wow,
Yeah, we're like, yeah, we're just going to do 7 songs. Is that cool? And he's like, okay, yeah, 2 days. Wow. All right. And we did it. I mean, we got a hotel and we stayed the night.
Yeah.
First day we got all the songs laid down, and then the second day was like the touch ups, and we had a violin player come in, and Bethany.
Yep.
Right.
Bethany Jubilee.
Yep. And she played parts on Olia on Accusers and Bitter.
Bitter, yeah.
But yeah, totally just a great experience. But yeah, that was funny. And like, we would try to be doing like getting the vocals down sometimes, and Smitty would be like, come on guys, because we had to get it done.
Had to hustle, like it kind of sucks approaching in that way, but it's also kind of cool that we did it, because like I just feel like all right, just went in there, kicked ass, got these 7 songs done in 2 days.
Well, and you know how hard it is to get 4 guys that are all working to get together on a weekend, not just a day, but a whole weekend, and so we just knew that it wasn't going to be, it's number one, financially feasible, right, if we had to string this out, and number 2, like, just everybody's schedules, getting everybody together and being able to commit to a couple more days, so we knocked it out. It was fun.
So which track or which song did you have to track the most of the 7?
Probably Salty.
Yeah, I think it was the vocals in Salty took the longest. Yeah. That was just it was tough, it was just trying to get it right and make it sound good. I think we actually had to skip it for a bit and come back to it, because it was just taking a little longer than we expected. But I think we had to run through Sweet a few times just for the middle, because that was the first song we recorded, so it was like trying to get the jitters out, and we went through that.
But we also recorded, the thing is too, we weren't like going back and like retracking things. Like it wasn't like we were putting in the songs, piece by piece. It was a live recording,
Yep.
and then we could just go back and polish up what we needed to. So I mean, we just did it right then and there.
Yeah, that whole album, Taste of Accusation, was done essentially like a live album.
Yeah.
I mean, it was totally like every time we tracked it, if we wanted to do it again, we would do the whole song over. And like, so it's funny, like sometimes like in Sweet, like I can only imagine that like the other versions that are out there, probably on Shay's computer somewhere, just like the different jams and stuff that we had that you just never know, or nobody will ever hear again.
It's just, but the improv parts, I just feel like, I mean, it's just, it's never going to be the same thing,
Yeah, I can only imagine that. So I got two more questions for you.
Sure.
Obviously, before the interview starts, everybody hears the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to let you know that Mr. Otto and his dad came up with the intro for the podcast. So
great.
First of all,
thank you.
Do you remember the conversation of when I first asked you, and when you told your dad, what did that all entail?
He was just like, all right, it's just like, let me hear what the song sounds like, and just to get an idea. And he picks up a harmonica and just starts riffing around a little bit, and I just needed to find a way that like kind of worked for us, like set our own kind of groove for it, do it the G-Men way. We always just it's not like we're trying to copy the album. It's just like we need to set our groove the way that works for the two of us, and and then just do our thing pretty much. He just started playing, and I got the lick down, and then we jammed it a couple times, and I was like, hey man, does this work?
Off to the races, right? Well, I appreciate it. Our audience appreciates it. Everybody that listens definitely appreciates it. You did well. So my last question for you, because you have gotten to experience this, we're going to be back down there again for our 7th year. You guys got to go to South by this past year. Talk about that experience. Talk about the experience in Austin. Talk about the music. Shared with the audience what you felt about Austin and that festival.
I thought that it was an incredible experience. Really enjoyed it. We spent a lot of time at the Empire down there, and we met some really great musicians that we still are in touch with. Charlie Abusi, is a
Grady Ray.
Yeah, I mean those guys, especially Charlie. We just took we got along pretty quick. All three, me, Otto, and Charlie. And, we ended up going to Roots, and Charlie was there. And so we were able to play some music with him. And, but just all around at South by was a great experience. Great food, great music.
We met Daniel Donato.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And,
saw Sketch, the guys that do, Kill Tony.
Yeah.
Podcast or, the show. And, just a incredible atmosphere.
How about you, Otto?
Man, what was the name of that bar that we went to see Nikki at? You remember that? It was
like the country bar.
Yeah, I mean, man, we go to this place. It's like
it was kind of out of the beaten path.
It wasn't in the city.
Okay, not Armadillo then.
It looked like we showed up to like a honky tonk joint pretty much. And
it had like a pool table in there.
Man, we walked in, it had I just felt like I stepped into like the 1970s. Like I'm expecting to see like Burt Reynolds and Jerry Reed hanging out in there. And this group that was playing, man, I forget the name of them, but it's really funny because like I randomly stumbled upon this, and they were in the new Roadhouse movie. They were the band in the back playing, and when we walked in, they were playing, And it's funny, they were sitting behind us too at one point.
Yeah.
And like when they were done playing, but you know the groups. What was that one group that sounded like Little Feat? They had the backup singers, the horn section.
Yeah, I know. There were so many bands in that time frame that it's just so hard to remember everybody's name and everybody's. But they deserve to know their name, and I just can't. I mean, I'm sure we can find out.
Yeah, I'm terrible with names.
Yeah, no worries
anymore.
Yeah.
I do remember when we saw you the last night at Henry the Invisible.
Yeah,
man,
that was great.
When he did the whole puppet thing with the alien, you know, like that was sick. That was some cool looping, man. That guy is sick.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that's South by for you. Pretty much. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Best of luck for the rest of the winter. I'm going to try and get down for that February 21st show. If not, I'll definitely see you soon, and we'll be down this weekend. So you guys, Otto, are you doing anything this weekend?
So I'm playing at Coastal Tap Room this Friday, 8 to 11.
Okay.
Saturday, I'm actually off. And then at Harvest Tide in Bethany, I'm playing like this like locals appreciation party. Just for like, I think like an hour and a half. I'm not playing really long, but you know, I'll be there. But yeah, I actually have a rare Saturday off. But Friday, you know, I've been playing. I mean, I've been pretty much playing 6 nights a week right now, so which has been it's been good. But I'm also, you know, probably it'll slow down once we hit January because I really want to plan some time to record with my dad and you know record some of my original songs too. So
good stuff. Well, like I said, hopefully I get to see you either this weekend or in February. Either way, just best of luck, guys. I love you both. And
thanks.
Love you too, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us. That helps the bands like Roast John. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR Outfitters.com. Don't just wear RAR. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Dogg. You've been great. This is the Music Lab Podcast.